crying whenever all this came up. No one knew any of this. We were engaged and I had no idea that this had happened.
When I learned of what happened with my nieces, I broke down and cried.
My dad and like the producers and people, they would talk about it. There was an urgency to figure out how the show was gonna be handled. As far as recovery and damage control, you just feel like the burden and the weight falls on you.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, and we are getting some new teasers from the new upcoming docuseries, Duggar Family Secrets, Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets. There's been two released today, one through the Daily Mail and another one through ET Online. And these clips are a 3-minute clip of Jill and Derek actually talking about the damage control that they were forced to participate in after the news of what Josh did in 2015 went public. And in the next clip, it was Jill talking about how her decision to speak out about her family and the struggles of how that would rip open issues in the family, rip open wounds, but also that it needed to be done. And then Amy sitting there with her journal, reading notes that she took while she was at the Duggars' house of things that Jim Bob, through the IBLP, was telling her what the requirements were of being a wife.
Values to be a good wife. It says, he is your leader. Your husband is your leader. Loyalty can be demonstrated only in adversity.
So Amy is sharing notes that she took while she was at the Duggars' house, being sat down by Jim Bob to talk with her and the kids about the requirements of being a wife. The notes that she took says that loyalty can only be demonstrated from a wife in adversity, and that your husband is your leader. And then she goes on to say, like, think about that. Think about the message that sends to a woman, that the only way she can show loyalty is when something bad happens in a marriage, or say adverse things happen, that the husband does something wrong. The only time she can prove loyalty to him is by standing by him. And she says, like, there's no way for a woman to have an out.
Teaches you that you have no way out. And no matter what they do, loyalty will shine through in adversity. How messed up is that?
Now imagine Anna is at home with the Duggars and she's getting a message from Jim Bob currently that the only way that she can show her loyalty to Josh is by standing by him, and that the right thing to do would be for her to be there with him, to stand through him, and to be there when he gets out. Because otherwise she's not doing her job as a wife. She made a promise and a vow before God that she was going to stand by him for good or for bad, for rich or for poor. It didn't matter at all about his behavior. And the fact that he is sitting down people in his family to tell them about what it means to be a wife, to me is really deeply troubling, because it sets the stage for his daughters to accept really bad behavior, and that when he marries one of his daughters off to another man, they're just conditioned at this point in their lives to take whatever it is that their husbands are doing and accept it, regardless if it's healthy or not. And then consider the conditions of this family did not raise their children in a functional environment. The children did not see a functional marriage. They saw a marriage of hierarchy and authority. And so the girls don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like, nor do they understand what abuse is unless they've gone through therapy. And Jim Bob did not allow that to happen. And so Jill explains why she decided to speak out.
There's a lot there that, like, do I want to open that can of worms? It's just hard to go through. There are a lot of families in a similar situation, but it was very different in the sense that, like, my family was on television.
Jill says that she did not want to do this, and it's not something that she felt like she wanted to do, because opening the can of worms of what she went through and what her family experienced makes her obviously relive her trauma of being a child. But I sense a sense of duty on her part, because she says a lot of families were going through exactly what we were going through, but we were on TV. To me, it seems like Jill seems to view this as a sense of responsibility, that she needs to speak out and share her story and the truth, because they represented the IBLP and showed people that they were the ideal family. And the reality is there's a lot of other families out there that went through what she went through with a sibling or with a family member, and the cover-ups they happened so frequently, and the kids didn't get proper help, that it almost opens the door for other people to feel like, okay, it happened to Jill. Maybe I can speak about it too. Maybe I don't have to feel so invisible anymore. Maybe I don't have to feel like what I went through was isolated. Because when you look at the scope of the entire institution and the systemic problems that occurred, and how the system really created an environment for men to have total control of their families and men to have no accountability because of loyalty, and there's no such things as victims in the IBLP, you kind of understand that Jill, like Ginger, seems to have a responsibility that they clear the record of, okay, this is what we portrayed on TV, but this was not the truth. And in a second clip that was put out by Daily Mail, they start talking about sort of that veneer, and that Jim Bob was so obsessed with maintaining that squeaky clean image that he took ridiculous steps to cover up what Josh did, and he went into extensive damage control, which we talked about in a video on Friday. But I want to show you just some clips of what Derek and Jill said about this, and they actually bring up Chad Gallagher's name, and they say that it was him that made this whole thing happen. But really it was Jill being sacrificed for the greater good, regardless of the damage that it caused her, regardless of what it would do to her. It was because she felt like she had to do it.
We were like hiding from paparazzi, and it's like everybody's in this room, this family meeting. My dad's PR guy would be there as well.
Who was that? Chad Gallagher.
Chad worked with Mike Huckabee as well.
He was an advocate to the extent that it represented Jim Bob's goals financially.
So they're hiding from the paparazzi, and they have just had the bomb drop that Josh Duggar's, what he did to his sisters and the babysitter back in 2002, 3, even probably longer. They're strategizing with a PR person hired to do work for Jim Bob and represent Jim Bob and no one else, not to represent the best interests of the girls, to represent the interests of Jim Bob in the show, working to find a way for them to get out of the situation by doing whatever they could and saying whatever they needed to say so that the network would go on with the show. And they had already agreed they're going to get rid of Josh. They've already agreed that they're going to get rid of Anna, and they're going to make sure that they're not going to be on the show anymore. And the pitch for Jim Bob is that, well, you can have my adult daughters. So the girls go to Megyn Kelly to give an interview to minimize what Josh did, and they're forced to do this. And Jill says that she feels a burden to do this because literally no one else can do it. She's the oldest of the girls that Josh did this to. She has probably the clearest memory. And then she's given a script of what she needs to say by Gallagher, who happens to be the PR strategist for Mike Huckabee. So people always want to say to me, Mike Huckabee is not a part of the IBLP. Bullcrap. Mike Huckabee was very close to Bill Gothard. He helped Gothard bring the Institute in Basic Life Principles into Little Rock. He helped implement the character qualities, being part of schools and bringing the character qualities that the IBLP teaches into schools. He was an instrumental person in pushing the IBLP agenda. And Gothard constantly would praise Huckabee in any newsletters that went out. And they're literally telling you, my dad brought in Huckabee's PR strategist.
So Chad was the one who was like setting up the Megyn Kelly thing to try and like get it to where TLC would be cool with like moving forward with this show. In hindsight, I wouldn't have done the Megyn Kelly stuff. I felt like I was in a place again of like bearing the burden and the weight of, even though you volunteer, it's like you feel obligated to like help.
The only way that Jim Bob was going to get out of this alive and still have a show was going to be having people hurt by Josh come forward and downplay what happened to them. Because if you put Josh up in an interview, you can't. Because if Josh downplays it, they can say, well, that's not true. This isn't the police report. And the girls are the only ones that can speak to it. And so a script is written for them, forcing them to do this. And Jill says in this docuseries that she had never said no to her family. Ever. She had never said no because of the umbrella of authority. She grew up thinking that she had to say yes to everything. They're making her feel like the only way to save the show, the only way to save our security, the only way to save our income is for you and Jessa to go up and speak and downplay what happened to you. And Derek says that to him, he likened it to like a suicide mission. Because you're going into a situation where it doesn't really matter what happens to you. You're sacrificing yourself. You're placing yourself in a position where regardless of what happens, you're not going to look good. Because it's going to look like what was in that police report and what you said in that police report and what you reported to police. Like you're going to be looking like you lied. Or you're lying on national television. Because in the police report, it's very clear what happened. And on that interview, they literally said that it didn't happen. You have to understand that that police report, although it went out into the public, it was pretty detailed in what the girls said happened to them. Jill was 12. She remembered. And in this interview with Kelly, Megyn Kelly, she said she didn't remember anything, but that's simply not true. In the interview she had with the police, she remembered. It was her that alerted her parents about what Josh was doing. It was her that woke up when Josh was doing what he did. It was her that told her parents what happened. It was her that saw Josh doing something to one of her sisters. You think of her in that interview and she feels like she has to do it. And it's all because Jim Bob wants to save a show. And so he has a PR strategist develop a script of what the girls say so he can save the show. Talk about how horrible that would be. And then she's been trained her whole life that she can't say no to her parents. She has to blindly obey them. She's obedient to them no matter what. She's been taught to never say no. If you say no, you're not being obedient. You're not being a good kid. You're standing outside of the umbrella of authority, and it's akin to witchcraft. And so she's fearful that if she does the wrong thing, she will have Satan take a stronghold in her heart and bad things will happen to her. It puts kids in horrible situations, and the lengths that he went to do this is horrific.
You can carry the show forward because the show cannot fail, and they were going to do whatever they could to get the return on their investment. If that meant collateral damage, that meant collateral damage.
Jim Bob was so obsessed with money and so obsessed with his image of being the perfect father and the ideal person in the IBLP and what that represented, not only to the world, but to the cult. Like, have you ever noticed that Jim Bob is obsessed with the number of grandchildren that he has and the number of kids he has, and he loves numbers? That's because men in this culture are lauded and applauded for having a lot of kids, and numbers means more blessings from heaven. For Jim Bob, it didn't matter if what he was putting out on TV wasn't true. He was telling himself that he was akin to God and that God had deemed this for him because he's got 19 kids, he's got 30 grandchildren. His image was more important to him than the safety of his daughters, the well-being of his children, getting his son help, putting the interest of his family's needs first, getting his children into therapy. Had he taken the right steps to actually address the issues when they happened, imagine how different things could be today. The girls went through some of the most horrific essay and were forced to push it down, stuff it down, forgive their brother, and forget about it. And then go on a television show and do scenes with him. Pretend like everything was fine in their family. Never address what happened. Never talk about it. Never even broach the subject. Never, ever allude to the fact that there's anything bad in this family. And instead, they're forced to go on a show with their abuser and make their dad money. And that entire time, mind you, that she's doing all of these things, he's not paying her. So she's not only been victimized by her brother, but she's being victimized by her dad, who's using her story as a narrative. And he's making her lie about that narrative. And then imagine what that would do to you psychologically. That your dad is trying to tell you that you need to tell everyone that what happened to you didn't really happen. And that what you experienced didn't really happen. And that you have no memory of it. But you know you have memory of it. You know what happened to you. All of these years, you've clearly remembered what happened to you. You know that you don't trust your brother. You know that you don't think he's a good person. You know that what happened to you was wrong. You know that you feel pain about it. But you're guilted into thinking that it's either your fault, or if you don't forgive him, Satan's going to take a stronghold on your heart and you're going to get attacked and you're going to go to hell. Because again, they're told they have to obey their father. Imagine the damage that does to an abuse survivor to actually have to deny what happened to them. And they do it because their dad wants to make money. And then imagine Jill on a show after this all happens, continuing to make money for her dad, giving birth on television, having her wedding filmed, having all of these intimate moments of her life outlined on a show that makes her dad money. She has to film 3 episodes where they discuss again what happened to them on Counting On. They have to discuss the Ashley Madison, the Ashley Madison scandal. Anna is forced to defend Josh and be loyal to him again because, as Amy said in the very beginning of this video, loyalty can only be shown in adversity. So she only is able to show her loyalty when Josh is going through something. So that's why Anna, in those very early episodes of Counting On, is all like, I took a vow before God and that vow was broken, but my faith is what guides me and I need to be faithful and I can't let him go and I have to stand by him because he's broken, so she needs to help him. And so she's told that she needs to be more faithful. And Anna's lying to you guys again on Counting On. I hope you'll understand now that all of these years I've been reporting and telling you that what you watched on that show was fake. I hope this docuseries will help you see how fake it was. Everything the Duggars put out is lies. Everything that Jim Bob directs is lies. He doesn't care about the truth. And sadly, his children have been grown and raised by a man that's a habitual pathological liar with narcissism, in my opinion. They don't know what's up from what's down, and they're taught to lie to protect the family name and the show. So when you start encouraging and digesting the content that these family members put out, remember, this is all a lie. Do you really want to encourage Joy helping her father direct a narrative? Or would you rather ignore Joy and make Joy actually have to find something to do with her life, which wouldn't involve the exploitation of her children on YouTube for content? Joy repeats the patterns of her parents, and she probably does it because it helps her father. It's sad. And they know no different. So you have to understand how brave Jill is to actually speak out, because she does know different now. And she doesn't want that. And she doesn't show her kids' faces anymore. And she doesn't make videos about them anymore. It's easier to stay with the status quo, and it's more painful to walk away from that, because you're going to get shunned and your relationship is going to be fractured. And her relationship to this day with her parents is strained. So all those photographs And videos that you see where Joy puts something out or someone puts something out of Jill at something, that is a strategy by Jim Bob to prove to everyone that everyone's lying. Jill's back in the fold. See, we're good. No, we're not. It's not good. And what Jim Bob has done is not good. Tell me what your thoughts are about all of this are in the comments below. Bye, guys.